useful lessons from our digital transformation journey, case of retail industry, by Mr. Kartik Nagarajan, Managing Director, Business Consulting and Global Business Services Sales, Nexdigm, and Mr. Omesh Bhujbal, Chief Technology Officer, Nexus Select Malls. Can we have a big round of applause for both the speakers? Kartik, with over 2 decades of experience, Kartik leads sales for global business services at Nexdigm. He is also responsible for operations and related services for business consulting, supply chain and intelligent automation, and accelerated analytics practices. With rich and diverse expertise from his leadership roles with organizations like HCL, WNS, Aviva, Avaya, and WPP, Kartik has a wealth of knowledge and experience. He has successfully built and managed global captives and shared services operations, accelerated revenue, and delivered ROI to stakeholders. He has led global initiatives, including the setup of innovation labs, digital technologies, and India-based Center of Excellence. Omesh Bhujbal is a technology leader with more than 22 years experience with leading Indian and Fortune 500 companies across retail, real estate, telecommunications, manufacturing, pharma, chemicals and automotive sector. He has extensive experience in spearheading innovative and transformational enterprise-wide programs covering digital, mobile platforms, mobile payments, business intelligence, analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, CRM, and other innovative technologies. Omesh holds a master's degree in information management from Syracuse University, USA, and a bachelor degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Pune. Over to you both. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Basically, this is a great opportunity for us to showcase the depth of partnership we have with Omesh and Nexus Malls. That's why we thought to present it to you in terms of how, as one team, and normally easier said than done, there's always that wall between a client and the partner. But I think thanks to Omesh, we got the opportunity to work with him, and we want to create something that we are very proud of, and that's why we thought, why don't we just talk about this case study to start with, right? So maybe, I don't know who's managing this slide, but if you could, okay. Yeah, so this is what we want to cover, right? Briefly in terms of what this case is all about. Then Omesh will talk about his experience of how he navigated the entire journey of analytics transformation during a fast-paced environment, a very demanding environment, let me tell you, right? Needless to say that he's part of the PE-backed Blackstone. It's a known news. If some of you would have worked with PE-backed, you know everything matters, right? It starts with the outcome, it starts with the deadline, and most of the times these things are unreasonable, right? It's not that easy to work in a PE-backed. Somehow he navigated very beautifully. So talking quickly about his organization, I would say Nexus Malls is one of the largest retail real estate platform. And as you can see that they already have 17 assets. They are in 14 cities, a footfall of 130 million plus. It's a very big number compared to, and you know why this number is huge. It's because for the last, I don't know, maybe last 5 to 6 years, there is a real tough competition between the online e-commerce versus the real estate malls, right? People are still, and both the markets do exist, they are coexisting, but there is a tough competition. And despite that, having a footfall of 130 million plus, I can tell you it is a huge achievement. Now, in terms of the overall case overview, it's something that I would request Omesh maybe to take it from here and lead us to the way of how we partnered to the journey of success. Over to you, Omesh.
Yeah. Thanks, Kartik. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. So Kartik laid the foundation of basically who we are as a corporation, and just to build upon that, we are, like the previous slide mentioned, we are India's largest real estate platform. What that means is that we acquire and operate commercial real estate assets shopping malls specifically, and then we basically take over them, run the operations. So far, we have 17. We are looking at, we are currently in acquisition phase, and that is why, which all adds to the context in which this case study is being presented. But at heart, we are a B2B company, so which means that it is specifically for us, a customer, we usually segregate between a customer and a consumer. A customer is a brand, like could be Lifestyle or Zara or H&M. But the consumer is the person who walks into the mall and consumes. So from that perspective, for us, we would have been okay just leasing the space to a brand and say, okay, whatever revenues I get from the rental is what I get. But if I want to, as a company, grow, I need to know who is coming into the mall, how are they interacting with the brands that are there in the mall, what are they shopping, and how are the tenants also performing. So I need, as a company, to get a grip on the entire ecosystem, basis which I can make my future planning for increasing profitability as well as my acquisition roadmap as well. So, which is why that when we embarked upon a couple of years ago, we decided to go on a high growth trajectory. We realized as a company that we needed to have better data, better analytics, and a far more integrated view of how the tenant and consumer ecosystem is interacting with us to get a better idea of how we should, what kind of assets should we acquire and how we should position them and what kind of consumers we should target. So, and that is where we and Nexdigm decided to have a collaboration in terms of laying out the strategy, executing it, and then we are starting to see the gains as well, which we'll talk about. Okay. Yeah. So when we had decided to embark on this as a strategic initiative, we realized that when we had a good hard look at how we were operating, and I mentioned a while back that we are a B2B, which means that brought in a very fixed ways of working, data is in silo. And again, one important thing was that I think we consider ourselves a kind of physical startup in the sense that 7, 8 years ago, the company was just formed. Today, we are a maximum of 500, 600 people across India managing all these assets. And we have a very lean structure. So in that case, it becomes very difficult for people to devote time dedicatedly to us for any such initiative. So it was, we also had to be mindful of the fact that people had to be pulled out from their particular roles to do any kind of analysis. So this also restricted the kind of analytics that was available. A lot of processes are manual because the real estate space in India is prone to manual processes. Data was in silo. Again, that is a common thing most organizations have, where systems don't talk to each other. Data quality differs between platforms. The data has to be manually transported from system A to system B. Excel is the predominant way of working. So we had all those fragmented, siloed problems that any organization has. And that is what we realized, that we need to get this all stitched together to make sure that we have a single source of truth. We know everybody, the leadership as well as the operations guys are seeing the same data, and the decision making is based off that data. So, okay, sorry. Excuse me, I think this is stuck. It stopped working.
Transitions are. My outside in view is this is the common challenge that most of us are having even till date, right? The siloed data, whenever we have to present to the board, the data is not available. And if we want to get into more detailing introspection in terms of converting that into decision making, that is also not available. So I think with the challenges they had, they were into the growth trajectory, lean team, but they were supposed to use data for decision making was the real challenge, and they tried to solve it, right? And maybe we went backwards, is it?
Yeah, if you could, manually control the slides from there, that's fine.
Yes, yes, yes. Go to next slide.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so great. So again, I mentioned that we took a hard look at the way we are operating, and one thing we realized that we needed to, as far as analytics was concerned, this would be part of a big piece in our overall digital transformation journey. And within analytics also, we realized that we needed to move from standard reporting, ad hoc query, and move towards, evolve up the value chain into more predictive and prescriptive analytics. So that was the basis on which we realized that if we had to do this, we needed the right tools, the right people, and the right skills in the company. And at that point, we, with Kartik and his team, we had a long, detailed session on how this could come about, how should we approach it, what should be the building blocks, what kind of resources we would need, tools we would need. And that helped us craft a strategy and align it with the overall business strategy that we had. So that, if you could move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So we put together a roadmap document in the saying that, first of all, we are doing something. We are not bad. We are good. We need to be great. So let's get those people who really know the data. And since we operate in a federated manner, by that I mean there's a central head office that controls the overall operations, the finance, and there are mall level operations teams that also control that specific domain, be it finance, be it operations, be it engineering, etc. So there are a lot of data points available across and a lot of data champions, we realized, and all of them needed to be part of this journey. It couldn't be something that the head office is mandating and driving and people would fall in line. So essentially, we identified who would the people who should be part of this journey. One thing we realized that we have so many data sources lying across. I mean, your traditional ERP, CRM system, financial systems, basically operational platforms, and also on the mall side where the physical assets are. We had, rather have, a facilities management platform and a lot of OT platforms as well, which control air conditioning, the building temperatures, etc., lighting, etc. So all of that data, fuel consumption, for example, all of that data needed to be brought together in a single data warehouse to make sure that the data is available and cross-referenceable. So be it sales information of daily or monthly sales my tenants are doing, how many people are walking into the malls, what are the kind of, we also do a lot of computer vision. So for example, you drive into mall, we are reading your number plate, we are seeing what make of the car you are doing and trying to derive what category of customer you are. So while that was being done in a very fragmented manner, we said, let's bring this all together. And the first building block we put in place is creating a data warehouse, which eventually could become a data lake once. And one thing to note here is that unlike many industries which have a lot of data points or data generated at various touch points, a retail real estate industry doesn't have that. So there is limited data, but whatever limited data we have had to be well managed with the understanding that this would grow exponentially in the next few years. So that was one big consideration when we decided to put this roadmap together. From a data reporting, visualization, and for decision making, we decided what kind of dashboards we would require, both at the CXO level as well as the operation level. We also realized that if we are getting into the consumer behavioral phase area, then we needed also to bring to have the capability to do advanced analytics on the consumer behavior, their shopping patterns. So those tools and skills also needed to be in place, and then eventually that will translate into a analytics center of excellence, which essentially drives the company's analytics requirement. So this is the roadmap that we created, and we are pretty much coming towards 0.5, I would say, happy to report. So now specific about what the technologies we put in place, if you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so first of all, we decided we wanted nothing on-prem. It had to be in the cloud, it had to be scalable, it had to be simple, and it was cost effective. Again, unlike, one of my previous stints was in telecom, where I was handling analytics, and there, because of the sheer volume of data, especially in Indian telecom with 200, 300, 400 million subscribers, you need to make the investments into large platforms, which are justified because of the nature of the business. Again, in the B2B industry, we had to be mindful that an upfront investment into such a large data analytics platform may not be justified. It would be very hard sell to the board. So we decided to be very to break it down and say that let's first of all build it in the cloud, build it with components that could be scaled up. So basically we identified the data sources that we had currently and what we may have in the future. And against that, we said that let's have an automation data pipelines built in that could load the data into a Databricks and Azure SQL database, which could be scaled over time. Now, these were, again, currently the data sources are structured data. In the future, we are also looking at how unstructured data could also be added on to this ecosystem. And basis that, we had a set of Power BI dashboards created for different levels of management, as well as a set of advanced analytics tools like Databricks, as well as an integration and plug this data into other tools like CleverTap to do consumer analysis, to do what-if analysis about consumer data along with the tenant data. So the way we see this growing is that as I have more and more information about more and more tenants, so we right now have roughly 3,000 brands or stores in our malls. We are looking to double that portfolio in the next 5 years in terms of malls and stores. So the wealth of data that will be coming in will allow me to do a lot of what-if analysis, including what kind of tenant mix I need in the mall. And one of the things that we are doing using this is saying that, okay, for a tenant performance, like let's say brand, I've given a area on the ground floor near the entrance of the mall, which is prime real estate. But that brand is not performing as expected in terms of the revenue growth. In that case, we come to know, this allows us to kind of come to know before the brand tells us that we are facing challenges. And that allows our leasing teams to go and talk to the brand heads and say, okay, what are the issues that you are facing? Is it placement? Is it, would you be better off in some other part of the mall? Are your business plans aligned with what the consumers are looking for? So if you're not carrying the requisite merchandise that the consumer wants, you're obviously not going to sell. So all of those considerations go into all this helps us also better manage our tenant portfolio. And Nexdigm team has been quite instrumental in basically helping us select this stack and implement it. So post-implementation, I think we have seen a huge amount of gains in terms of ability to source data, moving from D minus, I think we were at D minus 30 to now we are almost at near real time with this, by putting this in place. Next slide, please. Okay, so I was talking about what we got. So here are some more outcomes and impacts that we have seen in our transformation journey so far. So one, I spoke about that we centralize data across different types of data. Tenant revenue I just spoke about how we can better manage how the tenant relationships are going. Integrate dashboards with what we used to see is finance had their own reports. The marketing guys, using the same sales data, were looking at a different set of reports to plan their marketing campaigns. So we put all of those using Power BI into a consolidated dashboard that the CMO and the CFO share. So essentially, if the CMO is planning a marketing campaign, the CFO sees the impact of what budgeting is happening and what are the projected gains from that. So the approval process has got streamlined pretty high. One of the gains in the loyalty program, because like I spoke about consumer behavior, to attract consumers, we have launched a loyalty program a couple of years back, and the data that we accrued from the loyalty program through our app, we decided to use the advanced analytics tools to kind of see what we could gain, glean from that in terms of consumer insights from the consumer behaviors. And basis that, we use that to do a segmentation, micro-segmentation and targeting of offers of brands to consumers. And we've seen over a period of, this is 6 months data, but the last 6 months, as for the loyalty, so as a background here, for a customer to gain loyalty points, he or she has to upload their invoices of the shopping they have done in the mall, basis which they get points automatically through the app. Now, when we benchmark the average bill value uploads of those done by the consumers in terms of the actual rupee value over a period of 6 months, we realized that as compared to our competition, this was 60% higher, which means that indirectly, the consumer is spending more. They are engaged with the mall program, which means it also results in footfall. So there are second order, third order effects that we're also seeing. 21% of those people uploading are repeat customers, which means traction, the loyalty program is getting traction, which allows me as a mall owner to better target them for additional advertising or events. I spoke about the recommendation models as well, that how we use the advanced analytics tools like Databricks to kind of create a lot of RFM models, RFM analysis, sorry, churn modeling also, that which customers need to be, our consumers are in the process of disengaging with our loyalty program, etc. So now we are also applying them to the tenant, that looking at the tenant behavior and spend, what tenants are likely to be churn, or like some tenants we may want to churn proactively because we can vacate the space for some other high rent paying and high earning brand. One case in point, I'm not sure if any of you have gone to our Nexus Seawoods Mall in Navi Mumbai. Hard Rock Cafe was a used to be an attraction one point in time, and we realized that Hard Rock Cafe is not performing, and we asked them to move out, which usually doesn't happen, but we realized that that space could be given to someone else. So that came through this analysis as well, that we saw their pattern over time and realized that we could do better. And on the cultural, organization culture side, people are now used to using analytics to make decisions. Again, one of the aspects of the real estate industry is that people have a gut feel. I mean, it's in India especially, it's not a process-driven industry. So one of the challenges in this entire roadmap was getting people to trust data instead of trusting their gut, especially in the senior leadership. So ऐसा इस business में ऐसा ही होता है, 20 साल से होते आ रहे, तू क्या नया सिखा रहा है मुझे? So that was the conversations I'm sure all of you had as CIOs at one point or other. But especially in this industry where there is a legacy and owner-driven industry, more that because both on the brand side as well as on the leasing side, it is pretty much the owner-driven culture. So getting to trust the process and getting to trust the data, because the quality of data is improved and the availability is improved, has been one of the bigger gains that we have seen in the last year. So I think that's in a nutshell what our journey has been. It's not finished yet. Like I mentioned, that I think we are now entering into growth phase, and we are seeing more and more possibilities how to use this data, use this for monetization opportunities, maybe to third parties as well. But one thing that it is for, I would say on a personal basis, this is an industry where, why this is relevant and what Kartik touched about earlier, this is an industry that was not used to this kind of analytic rigor. And essentially, though it is a profitable industry, it has been working fine as it is. But I think that is one of the big gains that we have seen, is that we knew we were good. Now we are seeing how we can be better. Next, please. So, Kartik, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So therefore, and very, very beautifully articulated, if I just paraphrase, right, he transformed in a situation which is, the expectation is very, very soaring high. The industry is very nuanced. Our industry is a very different way of looking at the data. And the organization was very, very slick in terms of, the bulk of the operation were on the mall. So there is nobody beyond a point that they invested to say, okay, let's have a data analytics team. Let's have a cyber team. No, they said this has to be a lean team, because the industry itself is all about bottom line and growth. And if you have to maintain the bottom line, it starts with the number of employees that you have across level, right? So his ability to cut through, identify the partner, and navigate in the challenging times was absolutely commendable, I must say, Omesh. That's one of the reasons I personally requested Omesh should be there. Now, what are some of the key messages? The first key message in times to come, this is what I've been told, this is not my individual view, that in some of the organizations, the CIOs would potentially make up to the CEO. Right? Which means technology is continually, rapidly transforming, disrupting the industry, the sectors. If people who lead the future organization, the future leaders will be the CIOs of the organization. This is the point number one. And I thought you guys should take a very, very close look at what I just said, right? Which means if there is a gap in terms of your current situation, if there is a gap between your aspirations, try and fill those gaps, right? I mean, you'll be there. Second, in terms of digital transformation, what we're saying is that entire thing is about, it is a catalyst, right? It's just not one project. It is just not one tool. It's just not one series of workflows. No, it is a catalyst for a change. The change Basically, that we're talking about putting everybody in a process, making it scalable, therefore getting a competitive advantage, and therefore getting more control of the outcome. That is what this entire digital transformation has done for Umesh and for many others who took a lot of leap of faith in this despite challenging conditions. The second is data-driven decision, which he beautifully articulated, right? How many of us actually, even till date, look at the data first to take a decision? Can I share show of hands? How many of you use data to decide? Now, I'm not surprised. I don't know the exact stats. If I had the poll machine, it is not more than 30% of the staff that we have. That's a reality, right? As leaders, we are intuitive. As leaders, we are fed by the market. As leaders, we are fed by the past experience, and we decide, right? Word of mouth could also be a decision data. But looking at the data is I'm not saying it's the only way, but most of the time it's the right way, because at least if you want to do course correction, there is an opportunity. If you want to change the course of action in terms of putting more into some and lessening it, data helps you, right? But that's another thing that I would say, thanks to Umesh, that now his organization started looking at the data, everybody. That's a culture shift, right? Everybody is now in Umesh's organization looking at the saying, give me the data, I'll then decide. That's a culture shift, right? It's a huge, huge culture shift. Third is embracing a consulting mindset, right? And this has been the ask of the industry for a long, long time. You might have any new tool, you might have any new ERP, but ultimately, what is the problem that is solving for every department is the question one needs to ask. That is why we all have a role to play, right? We all need to partner to say, okay, if I have to have a, let's say, analytics tool, or if I have to workflow or digitization, which department is benefiting and how? And we need to get the buy-ins of adoption and also get those department leaders champion this as a process so that overall enterprise-wide, the organization benefits, right? With that, ladies and gentlemen, really, really want to thank Umesh to be a part of this entire thing, and want to thank each one of you to kind of have given this opportunity. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Full session, and I would like to call upon stage Mr. Ganesh Joshi, CIO, Nylon Enterprises, to do the honors.